So
East
guys,
Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals, you are live on the air and you're being recorded.
okay, thank you, Michael and LTV. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals meeting of November 9th, 2021. This is a work session. We'll start off with administrative applications. The first we have is Kathleen Dorgan at 76 Osprey Road in Amagansett, tax map number 300-131-7-6, to construct a 342 square foot deck addition on a parcel of land containing beach vegetation. And Eleni is going to walk us through this. Good evening, Eleni.
Hey, everyone. I've shared my screen. I hope you all can see it.
We can.
This is the survey. So they are proposing 342 square foot deck addition back here. It is in an area of duneland, beach vegetation. There is a wetland that is up across the street, but it's well out of jurisdiction for the deck addition over here. So it is just a natural resources special permit for this here, if the board is comfortable with it.
And again, maybe you can scroll down. We can take a look at the clearing and the count. We discussed we're pretty good on that, right?
The clearing. So this is the current edge of clearing. They're not proposing to do any additional clearing besides the 342 square feet for the deck. They're not going to be clearing any areas into here.
And their proposed clearing is going to be, let's see,
Their proposed clearing, they're allowed 100% because of the size of the lot, but they wouldn't be allowed that because it's in natural resources jurisdiction.
Right.
Yeah, so the existing is 24.
Right. This is in my Amagansett district here, so I am fine myself having this go administratively. Board members?
Can I just ask, John, Mr. Chair, of Eleni, what is the nature of the land this deck is to be built over? What's the condition of it now? What's the vegetation there? What does it look like?
It is pristine beach veg, so I have an aerial of it. It's mostly, I believe there's some bearberry in there and some beach heather. So the deck would be back here. The lot lines on this are a little bit off. It doesn't need any variances. It's just the way the aerial is situated.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments, board members?
My only comment, I'm fine with the, administrative part of this, but my comment would be that the survey seems incomplete to me. That coverage calculation does not indicate what is currently cleared, what will happen with this, which normally we see additional detail here.
Yeah. Also, normally we see a little bit of mitigation. I'm okay with this. I've said that already, but have they talked about doing anything, adding anything, Eleni, in their conversations, or?
No, they're not proposing any mitigation for this currently.
Correct that they're proposing pretty limited clearance.
Yeah, they're not proposing to clear. They're proposing limited clearing on this. So it's the clearing line where it comes now. It will just be up to the where the deck is proposed.
And what's the size there? It's 12 feet wide, and what's the other dimension?
It's 342 square feet.
Oh, 342.
I agree.
Yeah, I think I'm okay with it.
I agree with Tim that it might be good to have that clearing line as you move forward, have that clearing line called out so that, in fact, we know that will be the extent. I wish they were offering something, honestly, here, a little bit of something. I'm surprised they're not, but
I'm fine with this too, but I'm concerned with that, that vegetated area as far as future expansion. That's
Yeah,
all.
right.
But
Lenny, was there any thought of asking the applicant to provide additional vegetation, because they are going to be clearing now out significantly behind the house? I mean, someplace around the exterior, in line with the vice chair's comment that we don't see other kind of collateral movement off of the deck. I mean, some way to ensure that we don't see this expansion creates other problems.
We could ask if they would be comfortable with a condition that, this is the clearing line that is approved. I don't see that they do have very limited clearing here. The edge kind of just comes around here. So I can bring it to them and see if they're comfortable with.
Well, if the clearing line then does describe the deck, is what you're suggesting, it has been suggested.
Yeah, we could make that clear. No
Make
pun
it clear
intended.
that the clearing line hugs the deck in whatever position you, at the planners, you feel is appropriate, then I'm fine with it as well.
Okay. Roy?
no, I'm good.
Okay. I will make a motion then with regard to Kathleen Dorgan at 76 Osprey Road, Narragansett, that this go forward administratively.
Second.
Concur.
I concur.
And I concur.
Okay, thank you all. Okay. Next, board members, if you please, I would like to move down the agenda, put off some of these post-hearing decisions until later in the evening, and go down immediately to item E1 on our agenda under any other decision. And E1 is Nigel Curtis, if that's okay with you, board members. I will start reading that in, and then Nancy Lynn will give us a little bit, for those of our fans who are fascinated with what we do here, Nancy Lynn will give an explanation of what this board is charged with doing this evening on this application. So the application is Nigel Curtis at 393 Cranberry Hole Road, Narragansett, tax map number 300-128-1-28.2. And if you would, Nancy Lynn, please, and good evening, Nancy Lynn.
Good evening. To remind the board, way back when this application first came before the board for a public hearing on the application, there was a positive determination that it did involve issues that triggered a requirement for a SECRA review. And we have been involved in that SECRA review now for a couple years, and we have done all of the required steps in that the SECRA regulations require that get done before a application can be considered for an approval or a denial. And at this point, we are at the last stage, which is making SECRA findings. And they require that you consider the relevant environmental impacts, facts, and conclusions that were disclosed in the final EIS. Weigh and balance relevant environmental impacts with social, economic, and other considerations. That you provide a rationale for your decision, and that you need to find whether or not this application is consistent with social, economic, and other essential considerations from among the reasonable alternatives available, whether or not the action is one that avoids or minimizes adverse environmental impacts to the maximum extent practicable, and whether or not adverse environmental impacts will be avoided or minimized to the maximum extent practicable by incorporating as conditions to the decisions those mitigative measures that were identified as practicable. In addition to making those SECRA findings this evening, and after we're done discussing that, I will also ask you to consider, and is required by part of SECRA, since it is in a coastal area, there needs to be a finding whether or not this action is consistent with applicable policies set forth in the waterfront revitalization of coastal areas and inland waterways. So we'll do that second, but first we're going to go through and talk about the secret findings, and these have to be written findings. So if you, similar to when we do post-hearing decisions, if you would have a discussion on these, then I will incorporate those statements into a document for a written finding for your review and adoption next week.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nancy Lynn. So board members, as you know, this is in my Amagansett district. So I will start off here. I am, board members, you may want to pull up or you may have available to you the, I'm going to be referring mostly to the revised draft environmental impact statement, which is part of the whole final impact statement package, as you know. So that's what I am basically going to be referring to. And I am not going to reread this document, but I am going to just go through it and pick up on some of the key points that I feel are pertinent to the finding this evening. So again, here we are. I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
Chairman, is there a link to that document?
It should be, it may be under secret. If we go to the public hearings, let me just try to go back and find that with you. That's a good point.
It will be, it is on the town website in two different places. It's under the hearing as well as under secret. Laura's been nice enough to put it in both places.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think I know.
And if you, it is now it's also being shared on the screen right now also.
Oh, good. Oh, good. Is it being, let's see, I see you on the screen right now, but, you're bringing it up maybe, Nancy Lynn.
Nope, nope, wait a minute. Maybe it's not. No. Brian, do you have it? I'm sorry. I can share it.
Brian, that would be great if you would. Thank you, Brian. That would be great because that way I'm just going to be scrolling through it and you could scroll with it at the pages I mentioned, if you would, please.
There we go. Perfect.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks, Brian. It makes it helpful for those watching at home to follow as well.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. So here we go here. So here we are at 390 Nigel Curtis. This is a GeoCube seawall environmental impact statement. They are at 393 Cranberry Hole Road, tax map number 300-128-1-28.2. And this project is requiring natural resources, special permit and variance. So I am going to touch first on page 1 of 30, just briefly as we know, but I will be just touching briefly on some of these things. The description of the proposed action. We all know that this has to do with a geocubes that were constructed. There were previously permits for this property that occurred. This is all in the file again. And in the last one being in May 2016, there was a permit for the 2,381 square foot lower level ground and main floor alterations to the addition and some 1,256 square feet of decking. And it's worthy noting that the planning department estimated that the dune crest had receded by roughly 44 feet or 2.9 feet per year since 2001 to 2016. And on the next sheet on page 2, you will see Brian's illustration that pulls out the Seehaw line and the Limlaw line here from 2001. And a figure 2 on the next page, on page 3 of 30, is the 2016, I believe. And again, on an NRSP for the GeoCube seawall was originally submitted in February 2017. A building permit was issued under the emergency activities in the town code that permits for these structures at a temporary basis, a period not to exceed 9 months. And I believe there may be a 6-month allowable if you file for an extension. That was never done. A permit for the GeoCube was issued under the DEC, New York State DEC, in February of 2016, and that expires January 31st, 2022. And this sandbag wall, a GeoCube wall, was installed in January of 2018. Now, if you go, you see the photos again on page 4. Thank you, Brian, of the construction. And we'll discuss later where the primary dune was really, unfortunately, really excavated to get these things installed, but we'll get to that. So now I'm just touching in on page 5 that a draft environmental assessment form, which I will be touching in on later in the evening, was prepared by the planning department July 2nd, 2018, and it was subject of the public hearing. And that did identify, and we will go over several significant potential adverse environmental impacts and the structure's failure to meet the NRSP general standards of 255-4-40, the NRSP standards, especially for erosion control structures of 255-5-51E and F, the variance standards 255-850 of the town code. The planning department also determined that the long-term presence of the structure is not consistent with the town's adopted local water revitalization plan, the LWRP. Therefore, moving ahead, there were presentations by the applicants, and eventually after these hearings, this zoning board of appeals determined that the project had the potential to result in one or more larger significant adverse impacts and issued a positive declaration pursuant to SECRA. State Environmental Quality Review Act, and that was filed August 1st, 2021. And this required the preparation of the EIS, the Environmental Impact Statement, and a final EIS for the draft was adopted on January 14th, 2020. And then the DEIS was submitted October 2020, and this was deemed incomplete. There was a revision April 2021, and this was deemed to be deficient, but this board adopted to let it move forward with the deficiencies for the purpose of allowing public review and comment, in addition to allowing the applicant to address these deficiencies. And we had a public hearing on July 27th, 2021, and conclusion on August 12th, 2021. Moving ahead to page 6, I just want to touch base at the middle of the page where we talk about in the EIS, the location. You see what we have there. Excuse me. And this board knows well this shoreline along Napeague Bay, that's approximately 7,000 linear feet. And there is one legally pre-existing erosion control structure located approximately 370 feet to the west at 369 Cranberry Hole Road, where a 127-foot long, including the returns concrete panel retaining wall, appears to predate the adoption of the 1984 NRSP regulations. Now moving ahead to page 7, under C2, the structures, just to remind the public, these are 3-foot by 3-foot geotextile sandbags, each weighing approximately 1,500 pounds, stacked 3 courses high and tied together to function as a seawall. The DIS provides no additional detailing regarding their the seawalls specifications, and primarily references drawings used in the issuance of a building permit for the structure, which is figure 7. As noted by the planning department, the as-built structure included at least partial additional rows of geocubes installed seaward of the main structure. These were not on the original drawings. And figure 7 shows the footprint that was depicted on the most recent survey. And again, we are lacking any of these drawings, and therefore the articulation of the structure's composition, elevation, the lowest course of geocubes, details regarding the anchoring system, etc. And these could have been used, but were not included in the EIS. And let's see, I'm moving forward now to page 9. Again, just touching in on the construction. They did not provide information regarding the applicants, I mean, when I say they, regarding the duration of the schedule of construction, nor did it give any information regarding the potential of the subject or adjoining properties as requested in the adopted scoping document, the scoping for the EIS. And the photographs from 2017 indicate the installation of the geocube structure resulted in excavation of the primary dune. And we have that in the photographs provided. And you see on page 10, 2 of the photographs from before the installation. And then I'm going to move forward and touch in briefly on page 11 on the removal plan. And it was The seawall was installed again, the permit 9/13/17, and the emergency activities of the town code, it does give a maximum length for 9 months again, and requires provisions for the removal of the structure and a complete restoration prior to the expiration of the authorization. The DEC permit, again, condition 10 is removal of the seawall, and especially if the applicants or the owners of the residence fail to maintain sand cover over the structure after more than 30 days of discovering the exposure of the structure. The property has never been supplemented, supplemented the initial sand cover, and the seawall began to be exposed within 9 months of its completion, as we see in the photographs in the EIS. It should be noted also that the DEIS stated that the existing structure is not proposed to be removed. However, we know that it's not a permanent structure, and these geobags will degrade over time. Again, the DEC permit expires for these January 31st in 2022. And the applicants had requested a temporary variance for up to 5 years while the applicant explored the implemented an erosion control district to address coastal erosion. Excuse me. There were no public comments from any of the residents along Cranberry Hall Road on this application. We did have supplemental correspondence from the applicant from August 5th, 2021, and from the company that installed the structure. They failed to address the extent and depth of excavation of the beach that would be required to remove the geocubes that are currently below grade. Under F, approvals for the town, this is what is required, would be the NRSP and a variance from the Coastal Erosion Overlay District regulations of 255-3-85, which do not allow for coastal erosion structures. And let's see, I will move on next. Excuse me. All of the topography, this is all well discussed in the EIS. I'll move on to page 13 of 30 to the discussion of factors contributing to or controlling erosion. The DEIS primarily attributes the erosion at the Curtis property to the legacy structures at the former Smith Mill, as presented in the DEIS and the subsequent pages of this EIS. Moving ahead to page 16. There is no information in the DEIS that address the requirements to document changes in the topography on the subject or surrounding parcels. The recent photographs do show an increased exposure of the lowest rows of sand cubes and exposure of the filter fabric, which is evidence of a decrease in elevations adjacent to the structure. And the DEIS severely assess the adverse environmental impacts of the existing seawall and contains several demonstrably inaccurate statements about the structure, about the structure and the similar structures on the adjoining parcels to the east. I will move on next. Page 17, just to note again, a statement on page 13 that the dune was functioning as designed and it appeared vibrant is inaccurate. It is misleading to characterize the sand covering of the seawall as a dune. Again, these are meant to be temporary structures. On page 18, similarly, this statement on 1415 that no scour is occurring at the ends of the structure is demonstrably false. We did, all of us, notice there is scour or flank erosion, and the planning department has noted this in their April 7th, 2021 GIS oblique aerial image in illustration figure 14. On page 19, there's no information provided by the applicant That includes the list of the dates that the seawall and sand cover were inspected by the applicant's representatives, nor have observations, documentation, or photographs of any changes in the structure, sand cover, beach elevations, and flank bin, scour bin provided. And the plan department did inspect this on January 2018 and photographed the structures on seven occasions over that time period. Moving ahead, you see some photos, the figure 15, figure 16. Excuse me. Moving to page 21. There has been no maintenance or replacement of the sand-covered seawall. And again, remember that the DEC permit noted that if it should be removed if it is left uncovered for more than 30 days, and that certainly has not occurred. And then on page 21, there are listed the DEC conditions here on the dune restoration, on planting the beach grass and maintaining the reconstructed dune substructure. That did not occur. It did occur when it was, put in place and sand was put over it and beach grass was planted. And that was the last time that occurred. Moving down on page 21 to terrestrial and aquatic ecology, it was required a documentation of the changes in fish, shellfish, and wildlife on the parcel surrounding the seawall. And this remains absent from the DEIS. That probably does contain varied dunes, dune land, and beaches and tidal surface waters, all protected natural features as defined in 255-4-12 of the town code. And pardon me. And it failed to provide, the DEIS failed to provide site-specific assessment of these resources and assessment of observed or potential adverse environmental impacts to these functions and benefits as a result of the geocube structure on the property. The environmental assessment form prepared by the planning department noted that the property shoreline is part of the Peconic Estuary Critical Environmental Area, and that these provide for the following attributes on the DEC's website: the feature that is a benefit to human health, an exceptional or unique natural setting, an exceptional or unique social, historic, archaeological, recreation, or educational value, or an inherent ecological, geological, or hydrological sensitivity to change that may be adversely affected by any physical disturbance. I'm going to continue reading some of this here because it's so important. The shoreline on the subject property contains all of the attributes of the CEA. The extent of shoreline hardening was identified as one of the 18 indices of environmental quality in the 2005 Peconic Estuary Program's Environmental Indicators Report. It's noted in this report, the installation of hardened structures along the shorelines of the Peconic has resulted in the loss of beaches and the scouring of shallows, impacting shallow waters, benthic communities, diminishing the quality of spawning, nesting, or foraging habitat for finfish, shellfish, and bird species dependent on these habitats. And this nearshore area is in the littoral zone of Napeague Bay, as we all know. And this does provide, as noted, for these species, and as well as a haven for juvenile finfish, hard and soft clams, mussels, and scallops. And as well, this area is crucial, especially for migratory species, many of which travel to nesting grounds in the Arctic. And it's a spawning habitat for the horseshoe crab that's been increasingly recognized as important in medical research and crucial to the survival of long-distance migrating shorebirds. The exposed seawall has narrowed and lowered the elevation of the fronting beach, diminishing the quality of habitat for all of these species, including severe reduction in the beach habitat necessary for horseshoe crab spawning. And with regard to on the same page, human resources and transportation, it is noted that the public access along this area here. Much of it tends to be below the public gasket, along the underwater lands below the main low water boundary. But this structure's active interaction with the tidal waters of Napteague Bay impedes safe foreshore passage along the shoreline. Okay, moving on to the next page, 23. I'll just touch in on land use plans. That the proposed revetment is contrary to the town's zoning regulations, as well as the 2005 comprehensive plan and the town's adopted local water revitalization plan, LWRP. Along with the 11 goals of the comprehensive plan are the maintenance of East Hampton's rural character and the unique qualities of each of East Hampton's historic communities, the taking of forceful measures to protect the environment, including reducing the human impacts on dunes, wetlands, ecosystems, and scenic resources, and the protection of landscapes and scenic vistas from incompatible development. Pardon me. And as well in the LWRP on page 24, the shore parallel hard structures where no new hard structures should be permitted and where existing structures should be replaced only under conditions of exceptional hardship. And then let's see, touching base just on the comprehensive plan, I'll just in the areas that are bolded in this report and the scenic beauty of the town's beaches, as well as the dunes and bluff which lie behind them, is a signature of the town. The value of these features in protecting the town's coastlands cannot be overstated. The beaches also act as a reservoir of sand and other unconsolidated materials for littoral transport along the shore and for the formation of protective offshore sandbars and shoals. And again, below this, beaches are perhaps the single most important economic asset of the town. They attract tourists and second homeowners to the town for a myriad of reasons. If East Hampton beaches were to become significantly damaged or depleted and their attraction for visitors thereby reduced, the economic impacts on the town could well be incalculable. The property is, again, in this coastal erosion overlay district, and this is a district where in the town code, bay and coastal zoning, including bluffs, dunes, beaches, and nearshore areas, which is predominantly free of erosion control structures. And the new erosion control structures are prohibited in the CEOD Zone 2. Okay, moving along, I'm going to move ahead here into page 26, if you would, Brian, under C, coastal resources, visual resources. This is important. The DEIS, it contains a brief and vague reference to the visual character of the area at the top of page 21, but does not provide an assessment of the visual impacts of the seawall. This property is not located within the scenic area of statewide significance. Nonetheless, the geocube structures appear to be a white vertical wall that extends more than 6 feet above the grade of the beach. It's visible from shoreline as well as from surface waters of Napteague Bay, as many of us have physically witnessed. And it is contrast with and is discordant with the neighboring unarmored shorelines. The significant environmental impacts here, pardon me, the EIS needed to address these concerns from the positive declaration requiring this EIS. And these were really not very well addressed. The application is unique in that the structure has been existing since 2018 and as such has provided an opportunity to observe, monitor, and document the structure's interaction with coastal processes. And the existing and potential future significant environmental impacts of this project are identified in Section 4 of the FEIS. They include the excavation and removal of the barrier primary dune to install the geocubes, increased the turbidity in the littoral zone from wave reflection off the vertical surface of the sand cubes, a diminution of the dry beach and littoral zone, accelerated flank erosion at both ends of the structure, and a reduced ability of foreshore passage below the main low water boundary. And again, on page 27 here, the mitigation This does not the EIS does not identify significant environmental impacts. It doesn't identify mitigation measures. And the maintenance of the sand cover that never took place. It's noted on page 22 that the replacement of lost sand is essential to mitigating potential adverse impacts to downdrift, beaches, and property. Where there is no documentation of sand cover being added to the structure after its completion in June 2018. And the importance of the sand cover replacement as mitigation further undermines the contention that no adverse impacts have occurred from the existing structure. And we did get some additional application information from Richard Hammer, Esquire, who was the applicant's agent here, but plans where they proposed 135 cubic yards per year, with initially a 1,000 cubic yard sand placement, but there was no plan or no specific plans on how that would actually be placed. The plans that depict the elevation, slope, and toe location of the volume of sand should have been included with this proposal. And the drawings used for the initial building permit referenced in August 5th correspondence is not sufficiently detailed to assess the supplemental sand mitigation from the applicant. The DEIS and supplemental information from the applicant failed to establish that any of the adverse impacts identified in Section 4 of the FEIS can be achieved. And under the alternatives here, they did not, the EIS did not provide any reference to non-structural activities to date, nor the use of non-structural activities as an alternate to the seawall. There's no record of any dune restoration activities since this was constructed, and nor, again, are the plans proposing, is there any specific details on the machinery and the revegetation details. And finally, I will move ahead. Let's see, to page 29 of 30, the irreversible and irretrievable commitment of resources. And I'll just read this last statement here. The natural resources that will be consumed or converted as a result of the project are the same resources identified in Section 5, significant environmental impacts of the FEIS. They include the excavation and removal of the barrier primary dune to install the geocubes, increased turbidity in the littoral zone from wave reflection off the vertical surface of the sand cubes, a diminution of the dry beach and littoral zone habitat, accelerated flank erosion at both ends of the structure, and a reduced ability of foreshore passage below the mean low water boundary. And I would like to open this up for discussion, but before I do that, I will let you know that it is my thinking that the findings should be negative findings on this EIS. Would be my opinion based on all that I've just reviewed and gone over with you from the EIS. Maybe I'll start with Vice Chair Delaney. Roy, any comments?
Might be on mute.
Roy, maybe you're on mute, Roy.
There you go. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Brian, thank you, Roy. Maybe, Brian, you can take that down for now off the share screen just so we can see each other, could you? Thanks for your help on that, Brian, and thank you for your help on this whole project, Brian. Go ahead, Roy, sorry.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. And I'm going to, and I've said this in the past, that I think that the town in its development of the Natural Resources Code, the Comprehensive Plan, the LWRP, had a lot of foresight into preserving the natural beauty of this town and its rural character, as well as protecting the state of the natural state and not only just the beauty of it, but the health of its natural resources. And I think that is what is primary to why we are here with this DEIS and negative impact, negative declaration on it. The visual impact of the seawall, I do agree that the the owner, the applicant, in applying for the permit for the temporary seawall did not adhere to the conditions of the permit. And as time goes by, we are seeing more and more damage to the beach as the littoral turbidity is damaging the beach as a result of that, and then the scouring that's taking place on either side. I think as far as an environmental, this is a hazard to and contrary to the town's purpose of developing the natural resources. So therefore, I would also agree that the DEIS is insufficient.
Thank you, Roy. Terry?
I agree also that it's detrimental to the town. It's clear if you look at the town emergency erosion control structure procedures that were initially caused the initiation of these geocubes. That you can see the town code is very clear and very stringent on the amount of time that these things can be left in place and should be removed. So I agree that it's negative, it's deficient in the application, and that the town code covers very clearly what should have been done and was not.
Can I get back to focusing? We have to focus not on the application with town code, but whether it's it is consistent with social, economic, and other essential considerations. Whether or not the action is one that avoids or minimizes adverse environmental impacts to the maximum extent practicable, and whether or not adverse impacts will be avoided or minimized with the mitigation or with conditions. So
maybe, Nancy Lynn, if I could, maybe I'll just jump back to finish my statement with that. Shall I, Nancy Lynn? And I'll go back to you, Terry, because I wanted to add this procedurally. So if you will, Terry, pardon me, to Nancy Lynn's point, that I would say that this is not consistent with my opinion, this is not consistent with social, economic, and other essential considerations from among the reasonable alternatives that are available. I would say that this action is not an action that avoids or minimizes adverse environmental impacts to the maximum extent practicable. And I would say this is that I would say that environmental impacts will not be avoided or minimized to the maximum extent practicable by incorporating well, there were no measures that were really called out here. But that would be my, again, to follow up on my findings, that this be a negative finding. Terry, back to you, please.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, all of that is true. I did look at the NYCRR, I think it was 600.5 rules on the New York State site also. And it lists the things that you just mentioned. I'm sorry I don't have the document in front of me. I'm not at my house. I don't have it.
That's okay.
That you just looked at. And yes, it is inconsistent with all those economics, environmental, all of that, those things that were already mentioned. And this project is not in keeping with all those concerns and in the keeping of the good environmental impacts, economic and social.
Okay. Thank you, Terry. Tim?
Yeah, I'm in an agreement. I'm not going to try to summarize what the chairman just went through, which was very comprehensive. I would say that the entire SECRA process has been eye-opening, extremely thorough in the way that it's been carried out. I think there's some wisdom associated with this process to actually go through it, and we've seen it. But in the end, I'm in complete agreement with the negative declaration here.
Ed, thank you, Tim. Ed?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to thank you for doing the heavy lifting for us on this, for the very, as was pointed out by Member Brenneman, comprehensive analysis of what this EIS represented to us in terms of the months we've been looking at it. I think that without having to, enumerate the many points that you made, I'm in agreement, because I think that as we've moved along here and watched this unfold and studied it and had several hearings, we've seen that we haven't really been happy at all that we've been following any progress that showed us that we were moving towards, with the DIS, we were moving towards a real positive, in any way, positive resolution. I think that I agree with what both you and the other members have said, that I don't find that this does minimize environmental impacts. I don't think there's a benefit in any way environmentally. I think that the maintenance of them and that the existence of them has not in any way been positive for either the applicant and or the environment. And I'm in agreement that I would agree with a negative finding on this.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Next, Council, next, I thought I would go through the, pardon me 1 second. I wanted to touch base, and procedurally, Council, is this correct that I wanted to talk about the coastal assessment form?
Correct.
And I thought what I do, board members, I'm looking at the coastal assessment form, and I'm just going to tick through on the important aspects of it, that being, well, I'll get started. I'll let you know what I mean here. First of all, again, just giving you from the beginning the description here of the site and the location here. And this was, again, for the record, to allow an approximately 185-foot linear foot geocube sandbag revetment and a 5 by 10-foot pedestrian walkway extension to remain on a parcel of land containing barrier dunes, beaches, dune land, and beach vegetation. And again, we're at 393 Cranberry Hall Road. The lot area is 82,577 square feet. It is an A residential zone. It is a coastal erosion overlay district, zone 2. And it is, the land forms it as primary dunes and beaches. And the main water body is the Napeague is Napeague Bay, part of Gardner's Bay. And the applicant is Nigel Curtis at First Coastal Corps, with First Coastal Corps, who did the installation at P.O. Box 1212 West Hampton Beach. And let's see, pardon me. And what is required under the town would be the natural resources for permitting would be the natural resources special permit and variances from the town's coastal erosion overlay district regulations. I'm just going to touch on briefly under the assessment form, the areas that were called out as being yes, if they were significant. And again, I'll just tick through these on the ones that have the yes. Again, some were no, and some were not applicable. So under the yeses, under the yes, we had natural, under 1C, natural protective features in an erosion hazard area. And that has been considered significant, obviously. Under 2B, we have, and again, this is under, will the proposed actions have a significant adverse effect upon, and we have decided under B, the scenic quality of the coastal environment, under F, the stability of the shoreline, and under H, the existing or potential public recreation opportunities. Under 3, will the proposed action involve, require, or result in the following? Under A, the physical alteration of land along the shoreline, land underwater or coastal waters? Yes. Under 3F, reduction of existing or potential public access along the shoreline? Yes. Under 3H, development within a designated flood erosion hazard area, yes. 3I, development on a beach, dune, barrier, island, or other natural features that provide protection against flooding or erosion, yes. Under 3J, construction or reconstruction of erosion protection structures, yes. Under 4, under project details, if the project is to be located adjacent to the shore, does the project require, pardon me, I'll jump down to 4.6. Is it located in a flood-prone area? Yes. 4.7, is it located in an area of high erosion? Yes. Under B, moving down, pardon me, I'll move all the way down to C, is a project. Oh, thank you, Brian. I didn't notice you had that up. Thank you. C, is a project site presently used by the community as an open space or recreational area? Yes. D, does the project site offer or include scenic views, vistas known to be important to the community or state? Yes. Moving ahead, I'll just end with, under the certification, I want to read this. The planning department has reviewed the proposed activity for consistency with the Town of East Hampton Local Water Revitalization Program, LWRP. The proposed activity does not comply with the Town of East Hampton's LWRP and should not be undertaken. The following measures should be undertaken to bring the action into compliance with the LWRP, and that would be, when this was written, a draft environmental assessment form dated 7/02/18 prepared by the planning department has identified a number of potentially significant adverse environmental impacts and has recommended denial of the required natural resources special permit and variance. So therefore, moving ahead, if we go, it seems to me that we all have found that the findings should be negative on this EIS. And I will go back to the SECRA. Under no state agency may make a final decision or an application for a variance and or special permit that has been the subject of an FEIS and is located in the coastal area until the agency has made a written finding that the action is consistent or not with the applicable policies set forth in 19 new NYCRR 600.5, water revitalization and coastal and inland waterways. So there we have that.
So I guess I'm asking, Chair, then do you find that it is or it is not consistent with applicable policies in the waterfront revitalization?
Thank you. I would say that it is not, Council, my opinion. Board members, let's do a poll. Roy?
I agree.
I concur.
I agree.
Okay. Tim agrees. Ed?
I do as well.
Okay, thank you. Council?
Well, we will have to put these in the written forms, but I believe unless there's any other comments that the board members want to add, it's a little confusing, but I think it'll be clearer when we have the written documents in front of you. This is the step we have to take now. We haven't gotten to whether or not to approve or disapprove the application before you. This step, it has to be found to be a positive move, a positive for the environment, or not a negative finding, secret finding, in order for you to even consider the application for approval. So since this board seems to be finding a negative finding, we will not reach that decision on the application, and the application based on that finding will be completed because you will not have the ability to approve such an application. So we will have the written findings for you to adopt for next meeting, both on the SECRA findings as well as consistency with the waterfront revitalization. and have those ready for you to adopt next week. And that in and of itself should be the end of this application, as it has gone on for a couple of years, but I think that this will be the conclusion of it.
Well, thank you, Nancy Lynn. I want to thank you specifically, and Brian Frank of the Planning Department, for all of the work that you two did. The town owes you a lot of gratitude, and for the Planning Department overall, thank you very much. Okay, we will move forward. Let's jump back, board members, on our agenda. Let's see. We will move now to post-hearing decisions. And the first one we have is Hispaniola Trust at 9 Shipwreck Drive in Amagansett, tax map number 300-152-2-8.36. And thank you, Eleni, is pulling up the image there. I'll read this in. The lot size and location is 61,357 square feet at 9 Shipwreck Drive, Ocean Estates, map number 7001, Amagansett, tax map number 152-2-8.36. Description: to construct a 196 square foot pool house and a 380 square foot garage, and to move an existing shed to a more conforming location, and to upgrade the sanitary system, and to allow an existing outdoor shower and wood walkway to remain on a parcel of land containing beach vegetation and within 150 feet of wetlands. The relief sought here is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 and any other relief necessary from the East Hampton Town Code. Zoning district here is A2 residence, flood zones AE, flood zone elevation 9, secret class is type 2. And as you know, this is in my Amagansett district. And you recall from the field report and from the public hearing that, and this image is very helpful. Again, thank you, Eleni. We see sort of at the bottom by the pool, you can clearly see the pool. And adjacent to the pool is that structure that was built and that they were proposing to move, and I don't believe it had a building permit. They were planning on legalizing that and moving it to a more conforming location. Again, on the right side you see the polygon that depicts the property line approximately there. On the right side of the lower right side of the screen, you'll see that dark brown rectangle. That's some sort of like a playing court, a bocce court or something like that. They are proposing to remove that. They actually had already removed some when I was there. They are planning on revegetating that. They are removing, again, the shed and revegetating that area. They are putting in a new IA system, which is great. And they are putting in a garage. I wonder, Eleni, would you mind pulling up the survey, Eleni, please? There you go. So therefore, you can see again where they would be revegetating. Pardon me, they are not revegetating the exact area where that shed was. That is existing lawn right around it there. But they do have that scenic easement, you see, which is great, that wraps around the two sides of this property, the south and the east and the northeast. They are revegetating that back area along to continue that scenic easement line there where that court was. And now you see the location of the new IA system of the shed, the small square that's going to be relocated in their proposed garage there as well. I believe, Eleni, what is that next to the garage again? That's some pool equipment? Yeah, right. Yeah, right there, kind of. I just can't read that right there. Proposed.
Pool equipment.
Pool equipment it is. Yeah, great. Thank you. Yeah. So basically, I am in favor of approving this application. I think I think they're just doing the right thing here. They're taking care of some things that were faulty. They are revegetating. We've got the scenic easement. We've got the new IA system. They're conforming with these other setbacks on where they're proposing the garage and the pool equipment and the shed. So I am again in favor of approving this application as submitted. Roy, do you want to comment next, Roy?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. I want to also state that I was not present for the hearing, but I did review it and review the document. So I will respond. Ultimately, I agree with the chairman that for the approval, and ultimately this project is going to become more in conformity with the previous ZBA determination when it comes to revegetation and also the violations that have been on the property. It's a cleanup of the property from violations that has happened to a private owner, and I think it's a good one. This is a pristine
Yes.
dune habitat in this
Yes.
area, one of the most pristine in town. And I think it's important that we do approve this and improve the environmental impact on the property.
Yeah, thank you, Rob. Just to add, just emphasize what you said. On the left side of the screen here, especially this area there, the dune land, you would call. I walked back there and took some photos. It is just absolutely beautiful. And I must say, I commend them, besides of these violations that Roy mentioned, the area in the back of the pool and all that area is completely untouched, which was great to see. Tim?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm in agreement as well. The one thing that I would bring out is that we are in receipt dated October 18th from the applicant's agent, a construction protocol. You'll recall it's a 2-phase protocol.
Yeah.
And that the board felt that it was very important, given the disturbance on this property, that this be spelled out. So, and I reviewed the detail. It does seem to be consistent with what we spoke about during the hearing. There was a lot of things going on this property, as we know. And so, yeah, it's a big cleanup method, project. But I think it's if we follow this protocol to be done in a way that we can all feel comfortable that we're going to end up with a substantially improved property, and as a result of that, I'm in favor of this as well.
Thank you, Tim, and thank you for bringing up that construction protocol, which was so important to us. Ed? Ed, you there?
Maybe on mute.
Maybe I'm muted.
Sorry. I'm in agreement with my fellow board members on this, Mr. Chair. I think that when it was first presented to us and we saw the number of violations and the work that had been done, the things that had been done on the property previous to this current ownership, it's a troubling sight, particularly given it's been pointed out by several of you that it's a very pristine and important duneland environment. It was pointed out as well in the TAM how critical it was to see that this would be maintained and protected. And I think, as you pointed out, Mr. Chair, that there seems to be a very positive attitude on the part of this particular applicant and offering up this area of revegetation and the cleaning up of the previous violation. So I think that, in effect, this has been a good effort on the part of the applicant, and I am willing, along with my fellow board members, to approve this application.
Thank you, Ed. Terry?
Yeah, not much left to say, but I too am in agreement with my fellow board members, and I was impressed that they did present the construction protocol document with the phases, which pretty much was everything we asked for. And I was pleased that they agreed that, until they alleviate all the violations that existed on the property, that they, would not get a building permit to move forward with the proposed garage and the pool house project. And I aside from the applicant currently, and I thank the agent too, who seemed to have managed this project very well for her client and for the town and for the good of good of this property and its pristine condition. The two I'm in agreement.
Thank you. Thank you, Terry, for bringing that up as well. And I will note for the record that the IA system does count as mitigation here. They are not adding bedrooms, and that is, that's great to see. Okay, thank you all. Council, you have enough on it for us there, from us there?
Yes, it's good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move along next. We have the Edward F. Albee Foundation at 91 Fairview Avenue in Montauk. And I'll read this in here again. That is the applicant's name, Edward F. Albee Foundation. Lot size and location is 242,394 square feet total at 91 Fairview Avenue in Montauk in residential section map number 1014 in Montauk, tax map number 300-16-2-22. The description here is to renovate an existing structure and alter the roof line, to renovate, rebuild an existing cottage, to construct concrete patios, to construct slate walkways, additional clearing within 50 feet of a wetland, to construct AC units and heat pump, outdoor shower, to construct a gravel driveway with a paved parking area, generators, propane tanks, all on a parcel containing freshwater wetlands. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 and 6 variances from 255-4-30 wetland setbacks. Variances of 56 feet, 48 feet, 43 feet, and 30 feet are required to allow the alterations to the roof, the construction of slate patios, construction of the cottage, the paved parking areas, and clearing to occur 44 feet, 52 feet, 57 feet, and 70 feet at the closest from wetlands where 100 feet is required. One variance of 6 feet is required to allow the additional clearing of 44 feet from a wetland where 50 feet is required. One variance of 49 feet is required to allow an upgraded sanitary system to be located 101 feet at its closest from a wetland where 150 feet is required, and any other relief necessary from the East Hampton Town Code. The zoning district here is A3 resident zone, flood zones X, superclass is type 2. And this is board member Ed Johan handle this application. So Ed, would you lead us off, please?
Yes, I will, Mr. Chair. Thank you. The board will remember that the hearing for this application was of September 21st, 2021, and the survey is from August 13th, 2021, although I think we received it 3 weeks after that date. This is an historic property off of Fairview Avenue. It's 6,960 square foot main building, was originally built as a barn for horses more than 90 years ago. This is a large parcel, as was mentioned, 243,394 square feet or 5.565 acres. That is covered in much mature vegetation and an extensive series of wetlands. These wetlands are part of the Lake Montauk watershed, and their protection and preservation is of great importance to the board. The property was owned by Playwright Edward Albee and has been administered by the Edward F. Albee Foundation since 1967 as a Creative Persons Center. There are several structures on the property. Set to the southeast of the barn is a 1,366 square foot cottage, and a 540 square foot storage building is set to the northeast. There are several construction projects proposed for the site, the largest of which is for the demolition of the cottage and the construction of a new cottage in its place. The new cottage will represent a change in the configuration of the building, but will not represent an increase in living space. The work proposed for the barn will not represent an increase in the structure's footprint, although variances are required for improved patio areas to the north, south, and east of the barn. The applicant has proposed to extend an existing stone wall to the north and east and to construct an outside shower just inside that extended wall. Also on the barn side of the wall, an area to contain AC units and an irrigation well is proposed. The existing septic system currently sits on the west side of the barn, just 23.3 feet from wetlands, and it will be moved to the east side where a new IA system will be located at 136 feet from the wetlands. The applicant's representative stated that a concerted effort will be made to place the sanitary system in a way that preserves mature existing vegetation. Additionally, a new parking lot pad will be set to the east of the building that will provide 4 spaces, one to be handicapped accessible. That space requires a paved surface, which helped to trigger the need for a variance for this improvement. Given the sensitive environmental nature of this parcel and the extensive wetlands that make any project here problematic, the planning department asked that a proposed scenic easement to be extended to include several areas not included in the applicant's original proposal. These were enumerated in the TAM, and the applicant agreed to these requests, and the George Walbridge survey of August 13th includes a description of the now agreed upon 120,548 square foot or 2.767 acre easement. I think that this project as a whole represents an effort on the part of the applicant to improve their existing facilities while also trying to protect the existing sensitive environmental setting. This application is approved. The construction protocols suggested by the planning department will have to be followed rigorously, and every effort should be taken to protect the scenic easement and the richly vegetated lot in general. But given the careful effort that has been made to present a site plan that does show respect for this parcel and the minimal disturbance that will be done to the site by the work that is proposed, I am in favor of approving this application. I find that in reference to Town Code 255-8-50, that the benefit to the applicant does outweigh any detriment that might be caused by the planned construction and improvements, and that the area variance requested by the applicant does not significantly affect the character of the surrounding parcels. I think that when you visit this site, you are impressed about its uniqueness in Montauk. It's not the only large site left, but it is a very important one. The wetlands are impressive. The setting is impressive. And again, it's historic in the sense that it has been here for a great period of time. I think that given the amount of time it's there and the kind of use it has, there is a certain respect been shown to the environment there. There's not paths cut through wetlands or excessive clearing. There are a couple of areas that are particularly behind the cottages exist now that are going to be revegetated and closed back in and moved further back from the wetland. I think that the footprint's not enlarging, that the cottage staying basically the same size, although the configuration changes slightly. And the fact that the driveway to the house will now be eliminated and a walkway will take its place because the parking pad is a significant distance from the large former barn. All of these weigh in favor of the application. I think when you're there, and I think that when you deal with it, you realize how important this is, how pristine it is. And I think we all like to see it stay the way it is. And I think the proposed use for this project, this parcel, is in keeping with the long-term needs of the property. So I'm willing to approve it as it's been presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. Terry?
Yeah, well, I also like the presentation on this application, and I am in agreement with member Johan that this is a good project. It was presented nicely. I liked the scenic easement that was added, and that the improvements, there are some relatively large variances, but it's 56 feet for the slight alteration to the roof. They're nothing that would negatively impact either the environment or any detriment to any other. There is no next door neighbor or anything. I do like also, even though it creates some walkways, that they are making this site and ADA compliant, and that so that the property could be traversed, and I'm happy with the revegetation. The only thing, if I want to push it, would be behind the cottage area where they're taking down the deer fencing that surrounds a garden currently. Be nice if they would revegetate a little closer to where the new cottage structure is going to be. They're making that a rectangle, where before it was more like a U shape. So there's more space in there between that freed up area and the cottage. However, it's, I don't think it's critical enough to the application. It's my opinion of the application to really push that. I think they did a good job on it, and I too am looking to approve the project.
Okay, thank you, Terry. Tim?
Yep, and I'm in agreement. Thanks to Member Johan for such a thorough review. There's really not a lot here for me to add. It's a very historic place, as pointed out. The development and improvements that are being made are being done very respectfully. And I think you could argue that the environmental impact is a net positive with the relocation of the septic system and now the proposed scenic easement. I just think this is a really thoughtful plan. I appreciate it, and I also am looking to approve it.
Thank you, Tim. Roy?
I agree, Mr. Chairman, and I really don't have much I can add to that.
Thank you, Roy. I agree with everything that you all mentioned, and especially thank you, Ed, for your analysis there. I think it's obvious that these folks, this foundation, are excellent stewards of the land and will continue to do so as exhibited by this thoughtful application. So I too am in favor of approving the application as submitted. Thank you all, and thank you, Ed. Council, we good with that?
Yes, I'm good with that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move along. Next, we have 188 Old Montauk Highway LLC at 188 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk. And, excuse me, the lot size and location here is 32,177 square feet to the deed line, 188 Montauk Highway of Montauk, tax map number 300-87-3-20. Description: to demolish the existing one and two-story residence and construct a two-story, 2,408 square foot gross floor area residence with 636 square feet of decking, 506 square feet swimming pool, 250 square foot of planters, 124 square feet of path, 183 linear feet of pool fencing, outdoor shower, egress, window wells, and a sanitary system on a parcel of land containing bluffs, beach vegetation, and beaches. And the relief sought here is a natural resource special permit from pursuant to 255-4-20 and 8 variances from 255-4-40 coastal setbacks and 1 variance from 255-11-10 dimensional regulations of the town code are required for this project. Variances of 10.5 feet, 9.5 feet, 24 feet, 20 feet, 24 feet, 14.5 feet, 37 feet, and 39 feet at the closest to construct the decking, light well, outdoor shower, pavers, swimming pool, planters, and drainage structures and pool fencing, 114.5 feet, 115.5 feet, 101 feet, 105 feet, 101 feet, 110.5 feet, 88 feet, and 86 feet, respectively, where 125 feet is required. 1 variance of 6 feet is required to construct the pool decking 14 feet from the side yard west lot line, where 20 feet is required, and any other relief necessary from the town of East Hampton Town Code. This is in an A residence zone. The flood zone is X. The secret class is type 2. And this is in board member Berger handled this, as did Tyler from the planning department, Tyler Borsak. Terry, if you would, please.
Okay. Well, it's a pretty complex project. Tyler, that's the site plan. Have site plan dated 1/5/21, which we received on January 14th, 2021. So is that it, Tyler? Now, this is a complete demolition and redevelopment of a property. It's a pretty constrained property, and as we know, we had this hearing also on September 21st, and there was a large amount of discussion around the construction, and there's a significant number of variances, as the chair just listed off. This was a pre-existing non-conforming property that pretty much went with the previous home. The decking that was deck and a spa that existed on the current house as it is edged right up to the Seha line in the southeast corner of it. This is a redevelopment in which they have moved the house back, I believe it's 40 feet, from where it was before. And they've done a nice job on the house in moving it back, and they required no variances. They managed to move it back beyond the variance, the setback, the 125-foot setback from the toe of the bluff. They could not, as they stated in the hearing, they could not move that back any further because along with this project goes an IA OWTS system, which you can see on the site plan now has been moved landward of the house, where the current one, I believe, was either in south of the Seahawk line or definitely close down to closer to the toe of the bluff. There was overall a good project. There were a lot of comparisons made to the house next door at 184. It apparently is the same owner, and so a lot of the discussion of the construction and everything else revolved around comparisons to how the 184 house was done, and it was done well. And as a result of that being done well, there were two neighbors. The neighbor to the north here that shares an access easement with this property, was in favor of the application and did say that he was happy with the way they did the other job and hopeful that this job will be done the same way. There was also another neighbor, Margaret Collins, who supports the proposal and is also made a statement that she would like to have something done about the bamboo that came over from the current residents onto her property that's adjacent to it. But that would be up to them, I guess. The part of the project that disturbs me is the pool. In the TAM, there was an application that was denied for a pool back in 1993 at this location. And again, at the hearing, it was discussed, and it was a very strong denial by the zoning board. A couple of things have changed since 1993 on it. Number one, that at that time, you could see that the pool was proposed to be closer to the Seahawk line than this pool is being proposed. Most of this project, part of the proposed decking there, you could see the 125-foot bluff setback on the proposed deck. Some of that is conforming. Most of it does require a variance, as does the pool and the other items associated with it. The 1993 declination was a large part because the pool was going to be put basically almost on the bluff itself. So some things have changed with that. This pool is not, but it still requires variances. And I think that the variances are significant enough, and I'm concerned with this. In the TAM, it was referenced, well, a couple of things, aside from the location of the proposed pool changing to a better location. The town code for the setback for the toe of the bluff on this particular section along Old Montauk Highway was increased from 100 feet to 125 feet setback. And in the hearing and in the TAM, it was mentioned by the caution by the planning department to this board that we be cautious in approving a pool in this area. The statement that was in the TAM, trying to find, can't see, that they're basically that no pools in this area of Old Montauk Highway have been approved, that unless it's something that was pre-existing, non-conforming already, or have no variances required for it. And there are a number of variances required for this pool. I know it was stated by the applicant that this is already an excavated area. But I think that this still is a detriment. And there was a good point made by the planner at the hearing. I don't quite have a quote, but that, with the talking about runoff and drainage and the pool, that he made the statement that the fact that the area of the bluff is stable, which was, as it was reported by Wisher of the Woods Hole organization, the fact that the bluff is stable shows indicates a testament that the stability of the bluff to the town, and it should be a credit to the town and the ZBA that basically they have done good management in the code and preserving the bluff in approving applications that warrant it and denying other applications that don't. And I think as far as the house itself, I think they've done a good job, and I am in favor of the project. As far as the pool, I am looking to deny it. I think the number of variances are significant enough, and just based on the caution, I'm afraid that it would open a very slippery slope for other homes in this area, which right now have been kept as much as possible pristine from that. There was, I thought now, and I'm not sure about this, I thought, and it was hard to hear some of the discussion, some of the audio was breaking up at the night of the hearing, but I thought they were going to submit a construction protocol for the pool based on a question from member Johan. They said that the pool, we have a construction protocol from them, but it dates back to December 17th of 2020. And in that, there's only a short statement about the pool, and it said it was going to be a gunite pool in concrete. Yet in the hearing, they said it's going to be a steel basin, I guess, so to speak, that will be put into the ground and secured to the house via the foundation. And I thought we were expecting more information on that, but maybe I didn't hear that clearly at the hearing. I didn't see anything come in on that. So, I did ask Tyler about that and Laura, and they didn't have any new submissions. So I think in terms of the NRSP, I would be looking to approve the NRSP for the home again. And there is a revegetation plan that they have offered, and that needs to be, I think, a little bit updated. One of the other points of this project is that currently the access down to the beach from the house goes kind of down the center toward the western side of the property. And there's an access easement that the neighbor to the north of this house has with this property. And you can see on the right side of the site plan there's going to be the walkway that goes down from all the way through from the top of the property down to the beach. And there was a scenic easement also offered in the memorandum of law. I think we didn't realize that at the time of the hearing, and the applicant did reiterate it again in a subsequent document that they sent in after the hearing, offering the scenic easement from the line of clearing mark down to the beach. That doesn't change my opinion on the pool and the variances, because it's pretty much covering like the area from the Seha line and Seha line south all the way down to the beach. So it's, I guess, of some value, but I didn't think it was that much more critical to have that, considering that's a protected area and unbuildable area anyway. So,
Gary, can I ask a quick question? One of
sure.
the structures that requires a variance is the pool fencing. Since
Yes.
you are proposing to deny the pool, would you also be proposing to deny the pool fencing, which requires a variance?
Yes, the pool fencing actually has the largest variance requirement, I believe.
Okay.
And do you need a list of the variances? They did list it out in the.
No, I have those. I just wanted to check category wise because I'm not as familiar if any of the other structures that they're proposing are integral to the pool. I mean, an outdoor shower, I believe, is either light well, obviously, is not.
Could be, yeah. Yeah, but definitely the pool fencing and the pool. And the outdoor shower is questionable, I guess, too. But mostly the pool.
Okay. All right. So just so I have that you're in favor of the NRSP without the pool or the pool fencing and the other variances that are other than the pool and the pool fencing, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, just needed the clarification.
Okay, no, that's good.
Okay, thank you, Terry. If you're finished, are you finished for now, Terry? Or?
Yeah, I'm finished for now.
Okay. Ed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with Member Berger. This is a complex application, and there was a lot to consider. And I think there's a burden on us to very carefully consider what's been put in front of us, and I think we probably all have. For me, there were several important factors here that influenced my opinion. The things that lined up for me in favor of the application were the proposed new structure will retreat very significantly from the bluff toe, and all the improvements are set behind the Seahall line. Now, we do have variances required from the toe of the bluff, but we'll talk about them. I'll talk about them in a minute. The lot coverage, gross floor area, building coverage, and site clearing will all be reduced from the existing structure that's there now. So we're moving the house back 40 feet and reducing its footprint and its impact on that particular part of the bluff. That was important to me too. I think the fact that invasive species, was a mention of the bamboo, but the proposed landscape plan does include the removal of invasive species. That was questioned during the hearing, and we heard from Jim Grimes that he would be taking care of that, at least on the property here as it works its way down on the east side of the land. The septic system was moved from the ocean side of the house back into the parking lot, which of course is a very, very big positive for us. Having it down below, being vulnerable, being an older system, having a new system put in up above and to the north is a very positive thing in terms of this application. The elevation of the proposed house is also lower than the existing house. The existing house is fairly low as it exists now. This will come down a couple of feet more, which will change its profile a bit for surrounding neighbors and for anyone else aesthetically. The scenic easement is accepted by the planning department, is accepted by the applicant. I think there's a point to say that a lot of it would have been an area that would not have allowed people to build on. But the fact that it's a scenic easement always means something in the sense that in perpetuity, other boards would have to look at the decisions that were made and the way in which things were granted and proposed. And I think the scenic easement is important in this one here. I thought the other thing that was particularly important was if you do visit the site, and it may be a tangential factor to some, but there is a full-scale replica of about what they're going to do immediately to the west. This client, this applicant here, has put a team together and built a house to the west that's going to be very reflective architecturally and in terms of its impact on the site, very similar to what we're going to see constructed here. I think they made a point at the hearing of saying that they're bringing the same team back. And I've been to the site more than once, and I carefully examined the structure that was also, previously built and owned by the applicant, also owned by the applicant. I would have to say that it would be hard to imagine a more concise construction project being completed the way it has with little collateral damage, and the improvements that were put in, I think were done both intelligently and I think they were done detailing that we appreciate. I say that because it's very difficult at times for us to predict how a site will actually be handled, treated by the people who are, responsible for completing these projects. But here we have some semblance of understanding that there seems to be a clear understanding of how you would go about doing this correctly. And I would say that at 184 seems to have done correctly. But I will circle back and say that the big question here continues to be the pool, and it has been the pool. There is a little confusion in my mind. The construction protocol described the gunite pool, but at the hearing, specifically, the architectural team did say that this was to be a stainless steel bowl, and that they were doing that because we would do a minimum impact spraying gunite and the kinds of other things that were necessary to construct the pool would be minimized, and therefore there would be a lot less potential disturbance during construction. I also questioned whether or not structurally there would be a way in which the existing or the new structure would extend out far enough, its foundation and concrete walls would extend out far enough to provide some sort of lateral protection for the pool, which was the architect did speak up and said, yeah, that's exactly what they did have in mind. And I was happy to hear that. I think that the reasons why Member Berger has been willing to turn this down are good, solid reasons. But I'm taking a slightly different approach, and that is that I think we do when we review these applications, we're looking for people to be as creative as they can to present to us ways in which to achieve their goals and still show the kind of respect we need both for the environment, the code, and for the adjacent property owners and the character of the neighborhood. When I consider it from that point of view, I think that this has been done pretty well by the team that was put together. I like what's been done here. I like the concise package. I think it is a smaller residence than was there. I think the pool is very possibly disturbing the precedent if we would allow it to be considered any old pool. I look at this and don't think it's any old pool. I think that they've come to us with a different idea and a different way to present it to us. I think that there are variances involved, but given the size of the property, the easement involved, and the desire for any landowner or homeowner here to have some recreational area, I think the recreational area is really held to a minimum. I think the pool has been held to a smaller size that might have been asked for. And I kind of like the idea that we see a very creative approach to using this site. Again, if you look to the west, we see what can get done by a very concerned group of people doing things, I think, the way they should be done. Now, there's no guarantee that'll happen here. The hope is it'll happen here. But I am willing to approve this project as it is presented because I think that there are enough significant improvements and that in a net sense that we are doing the environment a positive here by moving the house back significantly, lowering its profile, and treating the site in a very constructive way for them to achieve their goals. So even though the pool is a jump and a leap for us, I'm willing to make that leap given the fact that every application is unique and this one has its own uniqueness built in. And I am happy to approve it as it's been presented, Mr. Chair.
Ed, can I, again, just some clarification, since there was some confusion, would you approve it if it were a gunite pool or a stainless pool, or only if it were one or the other?
Yeah, I'm going to say that at the hearing, it was presented by the architects as a stainless steel or the stainless steel pool. And that is what I'm approving because that's what we discussed. The fact that it was in the protocol, which predated that hearing, I'm going to assume that supersedes it. So I'm approving it with the idea that what was presented the night of the hearing is what I'm willing to approve.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you very much, Ed, for those comments. Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too spent a lot of time reviewing this, and I too ended up coming to the issue of the pool as being sort of a determining factor. As stated by both members, the project overall, I think, is very thoughtfully done. We've got the 3 R's here. We've got the redevelopment, retreat, and revegetation, which is what we always like to see in a project like this. The entire structure, the living area, is conforming. So it's really only the accessory structures here that we're talking about for the variances. The septic is relocated in a much more favorable position. The scenic easement is substantial. When we're looking at the pool, we have a prior ZBA denial dated 1993. And, we typically give deference to prior ZBA actions. And so as I thought about this, I dug in just a little bit, and the 93 denial, as mentioned by Member Berger, the setback requirement at that point was 100 feet from the toe of the bluff. And they were requesting a 39-foot variance. So the pool was located 61 feet from the toe of the bluff. In the case today, we now have 125-foot setback required from the toe of the bluff and a 24-foot variance. So the pool is actually 100, as proposed, is 101 feet from the toe of the bluff, which is to say it would have been conforming back in 1993 if it were proposed in that location. Another way looking at it is that it is 40 feet landward of where it was proposed previously. And previously it was a 39% variance, and currently it's a 19% variance. That combined with, and I have the same recollection as Member Johan of it being a stainless steel pool for all the reasons that he mentioned. I am happy to approve the entire project, including the pool fencing, and all the variances that have been requested. I just think it was a really thoughtful project, and I think it was the plans that they submitted, and I think it was ZBA 3, I thought was a very impactful part of it, where they showed the entire structure and how condensed it was and how much it had retreated from the prior. I think it's well done. And so, again, I'm looking to approve it.
Thank you very much, Tim. Roy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Again, I was not at this attend this hearing, but I did review it and go through the documents. I mimic Member Johan and Member Brenneman's assessment of the entire project, as well as Member Berger's thoughtful consideration for the remaining part of the project that side of the pool. I'm going to zero without rehashing what was said prior to. I'll zero in on what I believe the pool and why it should be approved. Stainless steel pool, the reason why they are proposed a stainless steel pool during the hearing, not only is it to minimize the disturbance of construction at the time of its installation, but over time, a stainless steel pool prevents leakage from pool. All gunite pools, all pools leak. I've said this many times, all pools leak, whether they're gunite, whatever it is, but a stainless steel pool is one way to remedy that. And so I think from an environmental standpoint, proposing that idea was pretty smart on their case, and I too would approve it as a stainless steel pool.
Thank you, Roy. Let's see. I will say thank you all for your very thoughtful comments. I agree with you all. I appreciate Terry's comments about the pool, but I am willing to. I am going to. My opinion here is to approve this application as submitted. per Ed Johann's remarks and Tim Brenneman's remarks and Roy's remarks as well on the swimming pool. I'll just simply add that overall, I'll just say to repeat what some of you have mentioned, that this is a very sophisticated team here that has put this together. I think it's very thoughtful. I think if you compare looking at the site plan, I mean, just for one thing, gosh, you look at where the existing sanitary is, it's down right by the toe of the bluff that was flagged by the town. It's actually south of that in portions. The small footprint, how thoughtful this has been laid out, the landscaping plan. It's going to be very minimal visual impact, this house, from Old Montauk Highway. I think it's a very thoughtful design. And again, just to touch on the pool, if you look at the cross sections, A300, I think it is, you see, as Roy mentioned, I agree with him on the stainless steel pool, but not only do we have the stainless steel pool, but it is encased in reinforced concrete on all sides and below it. Should there ever be a leak, you also have that additional barrier there. So again, I'm willing to approve this application as submitted. And council, does that give you enough information, council?
Yes, I have. I'm all set.
Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll move on next to Pauline Post at 9 Quadrant Hill Road in East Hampton, tax map number 300-55-1-13. And the lot size and location is 41,548 square feet at 9 Quadrant Hill Road, landfall section 1, lot 12, map number 5668, file 131/1972 in East Hampton. The description is to allow a 117 square feet of pool decking to remain within side yard setbacks. The relief sought is one variance of 7.2 feet from 255-11-10 table of dimensional regulations of the town code to allow the pool decking to remain 22.8 feet from the side yard western lot line where 30 feet is required and any other relief necessary. The zoning district here is an A residence zone. The flood zone is X, the secret class is type 2. And this was handled by Tyler Borsak from the planning department and Tim Brenneman from the zoning board. Tim, would you lead us off here, please?
Sure, Mr. Chairman. This application appeared in front of us on September 28th. As noted, it's 117 square foot of pool decking, essentially a small bump out toward the west part of the decking that is creating the variance request. We have one variance of 7.2 feet where 30 feet is required. So it's actually 22.8 where 30 is required. So the variance itself is about 24%. The property, as you can see on the survey here to the west, the county of Suffolk, that's Cedar Point Park. Who is the most impacted neighbor of this variance request? It's called Quadrant Hill Road for a reason, because it is very rolling terrain, wooded, very natural setting throughout this area. And I would also note that the property slopes away from the decking. So the decking is actually elevated here, and it slopes away as it goes toward the west, toward the county of Suffolk property. We heard from the applicant, Pauline Post. It's a family home. It's been in the family for 40 years. The parents originally bought it. She and her family recently replaced the decking. They kept the decking exactly as it was previously, so the layout is exactly the same. It was just new decking. We also heard from the planning department, and planning department was able to go back to at least 2001, and we're able to confirm that this configuration of the decking has been the same for at least the last 20 years. We also got testimony from the planning department that additional screening, which is something that we would normally think about for a variance like this, may actually look unnatural given just how natural this whole setting is. And so Without going any deeper than that, I am looking to approve this variance. And I think it's important that I just take a second and differentiate this, because I'm looking to approve it without any additional mitigation. And the reason is, number one, the variance request itself is actually fairly modest. It certainly doesn't fit the definition in my mind of being substantial. It's a 7.2 foot variance, so a relatively minor variance request. Number two is the natural setting that exists here. The terrain slopes, it runs away, and candidly, I think to require screening here would, number one, take some very large trees, and number two, probably take a long time before they grew up to a point where it would actually accomplish something. And ultimately, it leads to I think the main point here, which is that the impacted neighbor is Cedar Point Park. So there's really no impact here from a neighbor standpoint, nor any threat for that to be the case in the future. And so as a result of that, I'm looking to approve this as requested without any mitigation.
Thank you very much, Tim, for that. Roy?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I agree with Member Brenneman. The uniqueness of this property is the fact that the affected neighbor is the county of Suffolk County, and therefore there'd be no direct neighbor affected there. So I think this is a unique property. And I think that Tim went through, we didn't go through each one individually, but I think it meets the variance standards, all of them. And therefore I also would approve this.
Thank you. Thanks, Roy. Ed?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to agree with my fellow board members here. I think that the word unique on the property was used. I think that's true. I think the fact that it is the Suffolk County is in the greatest danger, Suffolk County parkland, the greatest danger of being affected by this is a factor. And I also like what Member Brenneman said about there are times where, and this is maybe one of the very few cases where we don't necessarily have to look for revegetation. That would be possibly artificial and as he also pointed out, a little fruitless. So there's not a lot else for me to add. I'm in agreement with comments of the Vice Chair that it does meet the standards, and I'm willing to approve this application.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Terry?
I agree with everyone else. Aside from the county park, I believe at the hearing, the nearest neighbor was still over 100 feet away from this. So I have nothing else to really add other than I'm looking to approve it. I feel it meets the standards also.
Okay, thank you, Terry. I agree with all of my fellow board members on this and really have nothing further to add, except for I appreciate Tim making that distinction with regard to the mitigation. I completely agree with that. So I too am in favor of approving this application as submitted. Council, do you have enough there?
All good.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Our final, yes, is Philip, the applicants here, or Philip and Lois Malinzak. The 305 Kings Point Road in Springs, and the lot size and location is 20,909 square feet. Again, at 305 Kings Point Road, map of Clearwater Beach, Section 1 in Springs, tax map number 300-24-1-12. And the description here is to construct 2,495 square feet of first and second floor additions, 768 square feet of covered porches, and 468 square feet of second story deck, cellar egress windows, walkways, driveway, and sanitary system on a parcel of land containing coastal bluffs, beaches, and tidal surface waters. The relief sought is a natural resources special permit pursuant to 255-4-20 and 5 variances from 255-4-30 minimum wetland setbacks and 255-4-40 coastal setbacks of the town code and any other relief necessary. The following variances are required. 1, a 17-foot variance is required to construct the porch 83 feet from wetlands where a 100-foot setback is required. 2 through 5 variances of 28.9 feet, 19 feet, 12 feet, and 7 feet are required to construct the porch additions Cellarway West and Cellarway East 46.1 feet, 56 feet, 63 feet, and 68 feet, respectively, from the bluff crest where 75-foot setbacks are required. This is in a B residence zone. Flood zone is X. The secret class is type 2, and this is in Vice Chair Roy Delene's Springs District, and Tyler Borsak handled this from the Planning Department, this application. Roy, if you'd lead us off, please.
Sure, Mr. Chairman. And Tyler, if you could, one of the things we're going to pull up on the screen is the existing conditions memo where you have a marked up survey showing the limiting fence and the proposed buffer. I think that might be helped to pull up on the screen. This is an applicant that has owned, this is rare, that has owned the house since 1958. Their grandparents have bought the house, built on it. And the location of the house is Kings Point Road, which is overlooking the bluff. The bluff is overlooking Gardner's Bay. And if you recall, you can see, if you're out there on the boat, there's Lionhead's Rock right off the point of this thing here, this property. So in 1966, it underwent the fire and it was rebuilt in 1968. And it's remained the same ever since. Yes, that's the one I want to see. They're asking for setback variances to the bluff crest and wetlands. There are no area variances required other than setback variances to the bluff and wetlands. The property underwent a bulkhead restoration or replacement as condition as a 2020 ZBA approval, and that work has been done, and the revegetation has also been completed. And if you remember the pictures on there, the vegetation was is well done. But I want to address the variances requested. There were 5 variances. One is a 17-foot variance for the porch, which the first 3 variants are really variances as a result of the existing structure. There is the porch. There's a 28.9 variance on the porch, where 75 is required. The third variance is a 19-foot variance on the northwest corner, and that too is existing. The additions are primarily landward of the existing house, and again, require no variances. The fourth, and the fifth variances are 12-foot and 7-foot, and that is for west and east areaway for the basement egress, which is at grade.
Roy, can I stop you for a second here? On notice, it had the variance for the 19-foot variances for additions. Excuse me. Yeah, and that it's porch and then additions were the 19-foot. Is that not correct?
Isn't it 28?
Let me take a look at the survey.
The porch 28.9 and 19 feet for the additions on the
Additions,
notice.
Yeah.
You might be, it's on the northwest corner. Northwest corner is the 19.
The northwest corner is what I have.
Right, but the northwest corner is the existing corner of the house. The northeast corner is part of the addition.
It may be from, it seems to be that it's the additions to 70, the distance is 70. No, it needs to be 75 feet.
Let's see.
Again, if you look at the 75-foot setback to the bluff crest,
But notice for that, and I think
that's existing.
They are asking for let's see.
And again, Jim McMullen laid out these pretty carefully too in the hearing, and that's what I was using as well.
It's surprising on the survey they don't, well, I'm looking at actually G1.00. They don't give the setback to the porch, but maybe, let's see, look on the survey.
The proposed covered porch is 46.1 foot to the bluff line where 75 is
That's
required.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, okay.
And again, that covered porch is over existing deck.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. And then, but that's the, but it is noticed for additions. So, and I know it's Mike and he's not with us. He's not with the town anymore. I don't want to say he's not with us because that sounds awful.
Well, again, though, that is a correct measurement to the house. Again, there were no the house was way before zoning, so I don't think the notice is necessarily wrong, is it?
Well, you wouldn't notice the existing house, so it says for additions.
Okay.
So the additions, I think the front of, perhaps it's the front of the house there. That's 75 feet. Yeah. Yeah, I think that it's the additions that are to the right of the house. Yeah, that area.
The northeast addition, that's the northeast, and I would say that's part of that's where the variance is associated.
But it is for additions.
Correct. That's correct.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to make sure because you had said that it's
No
that
problem.
it's for existing area, and I just want to make sure we have that correct. Okay.
I think the point was that it was just sort of squaring off the existing home.
Yeah.
That's no problem. I just want to make sure that
Yeah, I get it.
we don't not get the variance they need in the language.
Mhm. Thank you, Nancy Lynn.
Sorry.
Roy? Or we can go around if you want to circle around and come back.
I'm just coming back to my point. Hold on.
Sure.
Sorry.
So that I'm in favor of. I'm in favor of approving this application. I too think it was well thought out. I think the additions is landward. Most of the addition is landward of the house. I think that from a sizing standpoint, if you look at the neighborhood, it is consistent with the other houses in the neighborhood. So I think from a character of the neighborhood, it fits in. We had a discussion about future access to the if and when the bluff crest would ever have to be worked on again, and the applicant addressed that. I thought satisfactorily. I think the major discussion was to request a buffer. This is the survey that Tyler brought up earlier with the existing conditions memo. He had drawn in a 15-foot buffer. The board's discussion at the time during the hearing was whether or not we should bring it in more conformity with clearing limits and try to get some additional vegetation. I think that's a discussion that we can have. Maybe my recommendation is to connect dots in that diagram, that green diagram, and bring it straight across. Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure what you think about that, but that certainly would bring it into more conformity with the allowable clearing on the project. But
I certainly
ultimately,
agree. I certainly agree with that myself, Roy.
right.
Just-
So that
just
would be
make
my
sure you're
recommendation.
right there.
That would be my recommendation. One other thought on this project is that deck that is the bluff over the bluff. That is a pre-existing deck, and that's to remain there. But that would be my recommendation, and I would recommend approving this application with that condition.
Thank you, Roy. Terry?
Yeah, again, I'm in agreement with my fellow board member. I didn't see this document, actually. That out of the conditions memo I had was from Michael, and it didn't include this. But anyway, with the buffer and the adjustment on the buffer that Roy has recommended, I too am looking to approve this project. I think the variances are minor enough, and it does meet the standards. And the egress for the cellarway on the east and the west is a good thing going forward. So I too am looking to approve this.
And one other thought,
Like that
Terry,
scenic easement. Yeah.
one other thought on that buffer too would be, I think it should be woody species as approved by the town, not just be grass.
Yeah, approved by the planning department. Yeah.
Yeah, to impede lawn mowing. And also, I'm sure we agree that we would allow a 4-foot walkway from the lawn to the deck, the deck up by the water, correct?
Correct.
Great. Ed Johan?
Yeah. Thank you. Hold on, I just lost you. Are you there?
We hear you.
Okay.
We hear you. Yeah.
I thought I lost you. I'm in agreement with my fellow board members. At the time of the hearing, when I first looked at this application, I thought that the size of the addition seemed to be a big ask, and there was a lot that they were adding onto the property. But I think that there was the vice chair who pointed out that it was not out of character in the neighborhood, and that given its location on the property, it was not going to be for us a real. It was not going to be in any way an eyesore or a detriment in terms of the character of the neighborhood. I also am happy to approve adding on to this buffer and squaring it off or bringing it straight across in a straight line. I think it's a major improvement. Looking at the photos of the site, I think it can certainly afford that. And I think that in getting approvals for the deck, which is seaward of the house, and the amount of work that we're asking to have happen here, I don't think it's a large ask from them. So following my fellow board members, I'm going to approve this with those modifications that have already been described. Thanks.
Thank you, Ed. Tim, please. Tim Brenneman.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. My recollection of this was that the applicant's agent was going to go back to the applicant and talk about our proposal and then follow up with us. And I just want to confirm with Tyler whether or not we received any additional schematics or sketches associated with this.
Tyler?
Yeah, give me 1 second to look through the electronic file.
I think you sent me something, Tyler, but I think it may have been an earlier version.
Yeah, I don't remember when the
date I had on the one
public hearing occurred.
May 5th, which would have been obviously before the.
Let's see.
Tim, what I have from my notes is that the applicant was okay with the buffer of beach grass. It had been suggested that they do the buffer with woody shrubs, and they had agreed to the buffer as long as it was beach grass. So if it would be, this condition would be one that the board would be imposing, not on consent with by the applicant.
Okay, I just wanted to make that clear. This is the one that you sent me, Tyler, but it looks like it's dated May 5th.
Yeah, they may have created that. I have it dated on here as October 6th. As far as when we received, or it was put in the file. So it could be that it existed previously and then they just submitted it recently.
Well, nonetheless, I'm in agreement with my fellow board members on the approval and the additional buffer as sketched out and squared off by the planning department. And the only thing I would note, which we would always do, is that we would allow a 4-foot walking path to be able to access that deck. But otherwise, this looks exactly what I thought we were trying to get to during the hearing. And so that being the case, I would approve what's on the screen right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Tim. Let's see. Thank you all. I agree with what you've all discussed as well. I'll just note sort of on to piggyback on Ed's comments. When I first looked at this, again, I thought, wow, it's a lot of addition here. It's a real reconstruction almost of the whole site. But again, I like to jump on, thanks to Google Maps. You know, it's kind of nice. You can jump on and really get a sense of the area, going in close and panning back. And I think, as Roy says, this is, it's kind of close. It's on the limit, but I think it's in character with many of the neighbors, I'll say. A few things of why I am in favor of approving this, as we've discussed, is that I do appreciate that the existing deck is there where they're putting the addition on top of that, on that footprint. Besides squaring off the front of the house, again, all those additions are pretty much to the side of the house and landward of the house. Obviously, where the sanitary has been located in the best possible position there, and I think it appears from the work they've been doing that they are good stewards of this beautiful piece of property they have. I do agree completely with the condition that we are imposing for the approval with regard to the sketch that Tyler laid, that straight line all the way across from the side to side. Board members, I wonder how you feel. I agree with Nancy Lynn. I heard they were pushing back on the beach grass and we're looking for beach grass. Personally, I would be fine if it was beach grass, but I would like to see where the line is that Tyler draw, that be a complete layer line that they could taper away of woody shrubs that could then taper back off to beach grass, again, just to impede lawnmowers. Because over time they could sell this house and who knows what the next person or owners would do with that line. They might just keep mowing and it might not get picked up for many years. And the lawn fertilization, the damage would be done. So board members, what do you feel about that suggestion on the revised landscaping? I'll go back, start with Roy. Roy, how do you feel about that, Roy?
I think it should be woody species. I would think that's more consistent with the natural habitat on a bluff.
Okay.
You normally see.
I can't recall what was there. Can you? I just can't recall exactly what was there now.
Well, you had it's been restored. So the beach grass now, there is beach grass that goes to the crest of the bluff now.
Yeah.
So, but I think that from the top of the bluff, I think more naturally it should be woody species. I don't think, in this case, beach grass is a normal condition.
Yeah. Well, I don't want to push this at all because, well, that's what's there. When you see that right there, thank you. A picture tells 1,000 words, says 1,000 words or whatever the cliche is. But I don't want to push too hard on this, Roy.
Okay, that's fine.
I think it's, when I look at this and I look at that right there and you look what's on the bluff, I take that recommendation back.
Again, that's not a sticky point for me. I would agree.
Yeah.
I
But
don't know. I sort of remember that, didn't they say like the deer eat everything that's woody? I think it was on this application.
Yeah, a couple of applicants have said that.
Yeah, I've said that. I know.
it certainly holds the bluff better, the top of the bluff better. We all know that because of the root structures. And I'd be fine with them working with the planning department and coming up with species that are maybe more deer resilient myself.
That was the point I was going to make. I'm comfortable with the planning department making the recommendations here and the applicant complying with those recommendations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, I would say that I agree with both the chair and member Brenneman exactly, and that was going to be my comment, that I'm most comfortable if they were to work with the planning department and on a comprehensive planting plan for the area.
That would include a lot of woody shrubbery, per Roy's comments, right, Ed? That's what we all agreeing on, going back to Roy's.
I think so. I think that's more in keeping with what we've been recommending in these locations.
Yeah, and again, it does certainly hold the bluff better. So I completely take back my recommendation. Thank you all. Council, is that good enough for you? Clear as a mud puddle?
I think so. You want the buffer as it appears in this sketch.
Yeah.
And that it is a revegetation plan approved by the planning department to be comprised of vegetation that the planning department recommends, and it needs to address the issue of so it doesn't get mowed over. So it becomes a no-mow zone, as well as resist deer.
Yeah, and I think we're taking away, to make sure it's clear, we take away their suggestion of beach grass. It would not be beach grass, would not be part of that plan.
Not beach grass, but that it, you're looking for a revegetation plan that is more, would be more conducive to protecting the bluff, as well as resisting deer and also creating an obvious boundary to avoid mowing.
Correct. Board members, we good with all that?
Yeah.
Yes.
I am.
Okay, thanks, Roy. Excuse me, thank you, Tyler, for your work on this as well, on this application. Okay, we'll move on next. We have, let's see. Next, we'll jump ahead. We are on back to E. Are there any other decisions? We've taken care of Nigel Curtis. We will table George Galassa until a further date, but let's talk about Frank Davis at 42 Captain Kids Path in Montauk, tax map number 300-4-1-2. I'll read this in. A motion is needed for a modification of an existing NRSP and variances which were granted for the construction of additions, decking, swimming pool, patio, and an upgraded sanitary system. The modification is requesting to allow the additions to remain as constructed, and we all know this pretty well, I think. Tyler, you want to give us a quick summary here, please?
Sure. So this has come in front of the board as a modification request or a rehearing. This was originally, let me scroll down. This project was originally approved this survey. So it was a one-story addition between the garage and the existing house here, as well as some additions like to square off this part of the property, and an addition on the south side of the residence. During construction, that wasn't done. What was completed, and it's near complete at this point, was a two-story addition, all of which is between the existing garage and existing residence. The decking, which was approved, is still there. There's a small piece of decking here on the southwest side, and a piece of a slightly changed entryway on the south side of the residence. Minor changes, but the big change is the bulk of the additions are now between those two structures. There's some other questions for a public hearing if we have one, but for now, it's just if the board is comfortable moving forward with having this hearing occur.
Terry?
Yeah, now Tyler, in your document, did you say also that where they left that existing decking, which was going to be part of an addition, that they want to make that an addition now?
No,
that
would here. Let me zoom in on essentially what that is. That's this area here where like this building is like cut out almost.
Where'd you go?
That was previously going to be an addition. but instead they just left it as decking. It's not, they're not.
Oh, okay, but they
didn't
don't
change it at all.
propose to make it an addition. There's no
Right.
other addition being
There's
requested.
no other additions at all, except for all of them are now in that one
Except that they
location.
moved them all to that one side.
Right.
Okay.
And it's the same
And-
GFA numbers as what was approved
Right.
previously.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I was wondering. I
They
thought
just swapped where it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
and the variances really were improved slightly.
Right. Yeah.
Some of that,
absolutely,
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Already.
All right.
One from the bluff and 124. So there's no variance for wetlands at all now,
Right. Okay.
at least for the addition.
All right. Well, I am comfortable with making a motion to have another hearing on this for the modification.
I'll second it.
Do I
No,
just
no.
do that, or do I make the mod, or do we hear from you
Well,
first? Just make it. Just make it.
make the motion.
Make the motion.
And
Okay. All right. So for the application of Frank Davis at 42 Captain Kidd's Path, Montauk, tax map 300-004-01-2, make a motion to schedule a hearing for the application to hear the request for the modification.
I'll second it.
I concur.
I concur.
And I concur as well. Okay. Thank you, Terry, and thank you, Tyler, for your work on that. We will move on to the minutes. I have read the draft minutes for both the 19th and the 26th. Thank you very much, Laura. They look great to me. Do we have a motion, board members, to approve those minutes?
Yeah, they look good to me too. So I will make a motion to approve the draft minutes for the East Hampton Town Zoning Board of Appeals for October 19th, 2021 and October 26th, 2021.
I'll second.
Concur.
I'll
And
concur.
I concur as well. Thank you. Thank you, Terry. Okay, we'll move on next. We have resolutions. We have 216 Old Montauk Highway LLC, 216 Old Montauk Highway, Montauk, tax map number 300-87-3-12.4. Council, you want to, this is in Terry handled this. This is regarding the stipulation. Council, any comments?
This is just an unusual one, so if I can, it's just, this is the, you've already approved the stipulation, so the Article 78 has been resolved. This is just the follow-up so that the building department and our records have what is actually approved by the stipulation, so that they know what variances or NRSP has been approved by this board by that stipulation. And I do note, just since it is in her district, Terry does dissent with regards to approving the stipulation, and so that is noted in the written resolution.
But we're still approving it as written, right?
You're still making a motion to approve it as written, but it's written with your dissent.
Right.
Thank you, Ned.
But I
Thank you,
can still
Nancy.
make it. Right? I can
Still,
make
you're
it.
still dissenting.
Yeah, I'm still dissenting, yes. All right, so in the matter of 216 Old Montauk Highway LLC at 216 Old Montauk Highway in Montauk, tax map 300-87-03-12.4, I make a motion to approve the resolution as written with my dissent. Dissent by Teresa Berger, approval by the other 4 board members. Do I have to say them?
You don't have to, no, you can just say as written. But if you want to say it, you can.
I think I did. Okay.
Second.
I concur.
I'll concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you, Nancy Lynn. Thank you, Terry. And again, Nancy Lynn, for all your work on that situation. Vice Chair Daleen, I think we just need a motion from you. I think, Council, you're all set on your end, correct?
We have everything that we can get done tonight, yes.
Perfect.
Therefore,
Right.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion to close the Town of East Hampton Zoning Board of Appeals work session for Tuesday, November 9th at 8:54 p.m.
I'll second that.
I'll concur.
And I concur as well. Thank you all board members, Nancy Lynn, Michael at LTV, Brian, Eleni,